Cornel West speaks very, very highly of you.
Oh,
You are a Green Party member.
yep.
Do you agree with Cornel West's recent decision to not seek the Green Party nomination?
I do not. I was very, very disappointed. I thought it could have been huge politically for the country, for the Green Party, for the left in general, for him. But for whatever reason, I get the feeling he hadn't really thought it through, and it was something he wasn't really ready to do. And so I was extremely disappointed. The Democrats, by the way, in New York State, have gotten the Greens off the ballot. We don't have a ballot line anymore. Andrew Cuomo, one of his parting gifts,
Mm.
they raised the threshold for getting nominating petition signatures, and it's this huge number that we can't reach. Um, and absent someone like, even with a big name person like West, it still would have been hard, but it gave us some possibility. Uh, all the issues of that the Green Party stands for, that people want and agree with. There was something about having this well-known person that there were people I was surprised who said I would vote for Cornel West. I was kind of pleasantly surprised. And now we're back to square one. Who would that be? The people whose names have been mentioned are people I don't want. I don't want to spend time talking about people I don't want.
No, sure,
But
sure.
uh, it's so we're back to square one, scrambling, and New York is not alone. Other states have gotten the Greens off the ballot. So trying to the biggest of we say third parties as if there's only three, but the biggest non-duopoly party that had the grassroots support and the ability to get people on the ballot. Now it's like, who's going to run? Who should that be? Um, you know, and I think West, and I appreciate his. He gave me a blurb for my book, which is something everybody wanted, right? Cornel West blurb for your book, and he's a very kind person. He's very generous with his time. I think he's really a grassroots person, and he'll turn up in places you wouldn't expect. Small, local groups giving support for some issue, and I respect him for that, but I wish he had either thought it through before he did it or had just stayed in and worked, the bumps of something new. And it was new for him.
Just confirming, it feels good to take a stance on something, and one of the only voices, if not the only mid-sized voice, because no one large-sized voice was saying what I was saying at the time, and that this was a terrible decision. I immediately jumped off the Cornel West campaign, even when he got petered out. And it's become a custom that RBN goes out on the limb with a critique that is far ahead of mainstream left people. And then we get a lot of incoming fire. It happened with Marianne Williamson. Before we knew she was even running, we were putting out shit about her, of them talking about her running. And we took a lot of incoming. And turns out we was exactly correct. And it's been, several things. So it feels good to hear people who are respected in this space to concur with RBN, and in this particular case, what I was saying. Because we had Shama Sawant come out and speak on it. We had Ajamu Baraka come out and speak on it on a show with Nick and I. And now you see Margaret Kimberley. I can't think, for RBN, I can't think of any other three people we would associate our politics and our strategy with, but those three people. So for me, this is like in some sort of adventure movie where you got to place three items in order for this force to open up, this wall to open up, and all this amazing stuff come out. This is the last jewel for me. Had Shama Sawant come out, had Ajamu Baraka come out, and now you see Margaret Kimberley concurring with all of us have said. Just saying. And we want, I would hope there would be a day where RBN or people like us, a working class sort of marginalized group apparatus, can say something without having degrees and all of these accolades attached to us, and people can just go off what we say without these sort of giants in our space having to confirm what we said, and then everybody is cool now with what RBN's critique or analysis was. Yeah, and another thing she said, when her analysis, I get the feeling that he didn't really fully think this through. That's something else that RBN has been saying. Don't get the feeling that, I mean, in all of the decisions we can see in the events that have happened in chronological order that he obviously did not think this through. Starting with the People's Party was the red flag for that, and we said that at the time. But getting onto the Green Party, we thought he finally righted his ship, and then you jump off. It'd be like a hitchhiker who needs to go from New York to California, and you find somebody in New York hitchhiking that's nice and is happen to be driving to California. The hitchhiking part is you being the People's Party. Then you put your thumb out, then the Green Party picks you up. Before you get to the destination, you in New York City, you start getting scared about the ride. Like, oh damn, we going all the way to California on this shit? So you say, oh no, let me get out here in Philadelphia. So let's continue with the video here.
That, for a person, he's not a young man, for someone of his age, to have this new experience of a political campaign. I mean, I can't speak for him, but it was personally disappointing, and I think it's a lost opportunity for left politics and for Black politics too.
I agree with everything you just said, but when you say he didn't think it through, like, do you mean running with the Greens, or do you mean running for president in general, or a little bit of both?
I think running in general. I suspect, and I have not talked to him, but I've heard some things that this, you have to have a kind of discipline, and you're the boss, but you also have to listen to other people who've run a campaign before. And I think that was hard for him to do, and it would have meant a lot of travel.
What did Nick say? Just recently, Nick said something along this lines. Clearly, Cornel West has a hard time listening to people. He clearly has a bone in him that could possibly be having a little uppity attitude or understanding. I'm a Harvard, Princeton professor, and you're giving me advice? That sort of thing. So again, this is incredible for me to hear who RBN, and we've said this many times, and Margaret Kimberley is the guest we've had on our show the most of any person on our show. She has been on here the most frequently, on our network, I should say. This is great to hear her say lots of the same things that we have been saying.
Discipline, and you're the boss, but you also have to listen to other people who've run a campaign before. And I think that was hard for him to do, and it would have meant a lot of travel. It would have meant so if he said something, tweeted something years ago that's not in keeping with the Green Party, just as an example, now you've got to explain yourself. It's like, well, did you not agree with that then? Or do you know this is not something Greens can go with now? So there were some complications like that. And
she's being nice by calling it a complication. This is called accountability. So that bullshit accountability that he tried to masquerade to us as coming on these shows, what does that do if you don't follow through with what the people on the ground, the people shows you're going on? What does that do if you don't align yourself with what the people is telling you should be doing? You get what I'm saying? In other words, what's the use in calling a meeting and asking for opinions if you're going to take everybody's opinions and then put them in the trash when the meeting's over? What is the purpose in that?
So if he said something, tweeted something years ago that's not in keeping with the Green Party, just as an example, now you've got to explain yourself. It's like, well, did you not agree with that then? Or do you know this is not something Greens can go with now? So there were some complications like that. And I think
Again, now that I hear that again. So you remember how in interviews, I think it was it the Savvy interview? Some subsequent interview after making an announcement going independent, he always can been saying, yeah, I'm not going to get into the details. And it was Nick and I, when we were covering that segment, I said the reason he doesn't want to get into the details because he knows if people knew the details, they would be even more upset about this decision. And if what Margaret Kimberley is saying right now about some of the things he didn't want to do, like this, having accountability, yes, this makes you look worse. This makes it look worse that he left the Green Party. So terrible, terrible. But let's listen to some more to Margaret and we'll get to the main story here.
think it was something he had not considered. The reality of a presidential or any political campaign is quite different. If you have a campaign manager, the candidate is the boss, but the campaign manager gets to tell you what to. That's part of their job. Do this, don't do that. Talk to this one, don't talk to that one. We need to go here, but not there, and this is why. And I suspect he's a person who's been his own boss, as an academic and an author. And it must have been hard for him to.
She's nicing it up right here for me, in my opinion.
Do these things that were very, very different from what he had done before. So
well, why do you think he decided to run independent as opposed to running as a Green? Like why do you think he concluded that would be easier?
He did not.
I hate to say this, but because it's not really a campaign. How's he going to get on the ballot? How are you going to get on the ballot without a party behind you? The only person I can remember was Ross Perot, but he was a billionaire.
Right.
So I hadn't planned on listening to all of this because I had screened 4 minutes of this. I just wanted to get the gist. This is even better than I thought because this is exactly what we said. This is him deciding to say, and I think due dissidence, the phrase they say, I'm throwing in the towel here, but I'm going to continue so it appears that I'm keeping the promise to the people who I told I'm going to stay in this to the end. I'm just going to be somewhere in the background, not really trying.
So is this really a campaign? Is it just a write-in thing? What is it now?
She's saying the exact
same thing. Does he still want to do this at all? So I don't know if he may have changed his mind and said, I didn't know what this was going to be like. And even the Green Party has its rules. He wasn't being handed the nomination. He had to campaign for the nomination. He had to travel around the country and meet people and make the case. I think I can't think of anybody who, absent something unexpected, who would have gotten the Green Party nomination and not him. But I think, once the reality of it, he saw the reality of having this campaign and the kind of work involved. I think that's why he did it. And, so what is it to run as an independent if you don't have that apparatus behind you?
No, I mean,
we're gonna do part 2 of analyzing this. I do want to save part 2 with Nick, so we're gonna do that on Friday.